I took a normal Minecraft world and put it into small jars. This world is full of small unique jars that have their own unique biome and their own unique secrets. The question is, can I survive 100 days in this world in hardcore mode? If you're going to enjoy the video, then please consider giving it a like. And if you enjoy content like this, then why not consider subscribing? It would help out the channel a lot, and I'm really trying to get to 200k by the end of the year. Right, let's do this. Welcome to the jars, boys. So if the intro didn't tell you enough, this world basically jar central. There are so many different jars around here, and I'm about to spend 100 days in this world because that's kind of what I do. Now, the first thing to know about this jar is the fact that I can hear a bunch of spiders. We also have 3 books, which I'll probably read by myself so I don't bore you guys. But yeah, this is a pretty straightforward thing I'm gonna do. I guess my goals would be, obviously I want to see about what I can do when it comes to potentially a dragon or a wither kill. I'm not sure if that is entirely possible. Then again, getting to the nether, we'll see what happens. Hold all 51 sponges in your hand. Interesting. So I guess that's another goal. I gotta find the 51 sponges. Right then, there's need of dilly-dally and let's play some Minecraft. The book answered my questions pretty quickly, by the way. They do say there is a custom nether and end in this world. I just have to find my way to them. After that, I dug down to the spider sounds. It was a spawner, which was actually perfect since I can collect myself some string, make myself some wool, and then make myself a bed. I then took out the somewhat custom tree, like literally all of it, even the roots, to collect as much wood as possible. And can I just say, very grateful that this thing dropped saplings. That could have been such a faff. The next important thing to sort out on day 2 is I'm going to need a lot of food. So after clearing out the grass and setting myself up some basic farms, I looked at the 2 close jars to me. The first set of jars contained a bunch of different animals that I could potentially breed and slaughter, and the second one had villages that I could potentially trade for. In the long run, both of them will definitely be very useful, but for now I think the animal farms would be the easiest and best to go for. That being said, I'm definitely going to need myself some blocks, and so I started digging into the jar. Specifically, I started digging a ring around the edge of the jar, which not only will give me blocks, but it will also give me a look on the outside of the jar if I want to go ahead and find that sponge. How would I do that on day 3? Very simple. By just simply breaking the glass and going to third person, I can see the edge of the jar without building outwards too far. I checked all 4 sides, but there was no clear sponge that I could see. I also went underneath the jar using a water source, but again, I didn't see the sponge. There was a little bit of iron though, so I'll quickly grab that. Diamonds, you say? Well, don't mind if I do. I got myself some diamonds, and then I started working on some paths to the nearby jars. I decided to spend a little bit extra time making the paths a little bit safer for myself and the animals that I want to drag along. It will add a little bit more time in the long run, but like I say, it's going to make things so much safer for me. I finished the path the next day. A little bit of a problem though, I don't have any crops to leave them with, so yeah, I'm going to have to wait a second here. Whilst I am waiting though, I decided to make a bridge over to the village jar. It was such a shame that I didn't have enough blocks to do so, and so I went back to grinding some cobble. Again, it took me to the next day for me to be able to finish this path, but before I go in there, I wanted to make myself a nice little platform. The crops are very close to being completed on the growing side, and so I want to make myself a platform to put the animals so they're not just stuck in those jars over there. I firstly brought the chickens back, and then I brought the cows back. I was kind of dumb admittedly, and I bred the cows with the wheat that I had, meaning that the sheep that were currently in the jar, yeah, there was no way for me to leave them because I didn't have any extra wheat. There was also the pigs in the jar, but since I don't have carrots, I'll have to come back for them later. And after grabbing myself some more food on day 6 and doing a little bit more crops, I was, well, waiting. I had 2 apples to my name, and admittedly they was already in my tummy, so yeah, I desperately need food before I go too far. And then I realized that a very easy way for me to get food is to use villagers, and so on day 7 I headed over. Got myself some carrots, which was pretty neat. And then there was a guy trading portal locators. Isn't that interesting? After that, I looked around the village for all the sponge, but sadly I didn't have any luck. I guess I'll just take these hay bales as a free source. Oh, nice. Got myself that bread on day 8, and then I planted myself the carrots. Using the diamonds I collected earlier, I got myself a diamond pickaxe, and I remembered that I had a lava pool earlier, so I went down there to grab myself some obsidian. Now, why I grabbed enough for an actual nether portal, I don't know, because I can't build one. Also, this lava pool had a couple extra diamonds for me, so that's also really nice. On day 9, and I made myself some iron stuff and headed back over to the village. So as I mentioned, you can't make a nether portal in this map, but you can buy this locator that will take you directly to it, and after a couple of trades, I was able to buy it. It turns out that this locator points directly into the void, so hopefully it won't be too far away and I'll head there in the future. But for the time being, I'm not ready to go there. Let me search the nearby jars to see what else that I can find. I got to the next jar on day 10. It was a little tiger with some cute little foxes, I know. I will grab myself some wood and, hey, the second sponge, let's go. Alright, well, I'm done here, and just like that, I'm out of blocks, so back to cobble grinding. On day 11, and after some basic breeding, I realized there was a spot that I hadn't checked yet, the cork. I went up top and aha, a secret room. A diamond hoe? Dangerous to go alone, take this. Oh, I get it. It's the Mario thing. But it did make me think that if there is something in this cork, then maybe there's one in every cork, so it is time for me to quickly check. The simple answer was no. At least the 2 other jars that I had, I quickly checked them, but I couldn't find anything in them. On day 12, and I did have a couple more jars to check with animals in, I did miss myself a barrel, but I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't anything too fantastic. And after finding nothing in the corks, I led the sheep back to base. And with that done, there's a desert temple over there. Gimme, I want it. So yeah, I started working my way over to the desert. On day 13, and after making the bridges more secure, I found myself the temple. That was rather full of mobs. Only 1 or 2, I'd say. It is admittedly nothing that I couldn't handle though. Now, did I hide away picking off mobs one by one? Well, that's not important. But the important thing is I got in safely. I quickly found myself the extra sponge, and then I went into the temple itself. I was eating good down here. Enchanted golden apple, fortune, free book. Don't mind if I diddly do. On to another jar on day 14. This one had wolves in. That's pretty cute. Now to find that sponge. That was easy enough. And with that done, I quickly popped home. Now I only had 5 bones, and I wasn't necessarily sure that was gonna be enough, but lucky for me, these wolves just wanted me, and I was able to get myself 2 wolves, and 2 wolves make a pack. Boy, I haven't done this for a while. Alright, go on the back. Once I did get back home, I did notice that there was a lot of trees in my original jar that was sort of getting in the way. And it would take absolutely forever for me to chop them down. So it wasn't me. You can't prove it. There is no facts. I've got my lawyer denies all allegations. And so that fortune-free book on day 15. I just need to get myself some iron for an anvil. And there is iron golems in the village that I can quickly go check out. I thought it would be enough for me to get the anvil. I was wrong. But then I remembered that in my furnace, I actually still had iron. Let's go. Put fortune 3 on my pickaxe, and the big jar over there that is basically a giant cave is calling my name. For that though, I will still need myself a little bit of cobble. I had the genius idea to try and get more cobble by using TNT. It was probably not the best move, especially when I'm still hunting for a sponge in this jar, but here we move on. Got myself some cobble. I moved on to the squid bottle on day 16. I can say with 100% confident that there is no sponge in here, and then it was on to the big boy jar. I pretty much spent all day making a bridge to it and then making the bridge safe. In the process, I found myself a magic squid. Do what you want with this information. On day 17, I made myself some ladders, and up the jar we go. I quickly checked in the cork, by the way. There was nothing in here. You know what was in this jar, though? Mobs. And oh lord, was there a lot of mobs. There's 5 skeletons over here alone. There's so bloody many. And it even got worse when the cave actually opened up. I totally didn't nearly die in here. You can't prove that either. It did turn to day 18 at some point whilst I was exploring this jar, so we'll just say that this happened now. I did get an achievement that I didn't expect to get. Thanks, Axolotl. I'll take it. Then I got myself some diamonds, and I got myself some more diamonds. 13 diamonds in total, which is pretty nice. Also, spinning endermen, because, you know, why not? Anyway, with much more exploring and a 3rd skeleton dropping an enchanted bow, I found even more diamonds. That got me to a grand total of 27 diamonds, but still no sponge in here. We can come back to this one later, though. And it took 19 days. I'm able to make myself an enchanting table. After that, it was on to the next jar. Once I got there, the first thing I explored, just like any other jar, is the cork. I kept trying to get up to the cork, but sadly kept failing. It was a little bit sad. But on the next day, I was able to get up there. I found absolutely nothing. Shocker, I know. I will quickly check the jar right next to it. If there is going to be a sponge, it's definitely going to be in the ice. It didn't take me any time at all to actually find. And on day 21, after grinding even more cobble, I realized that I had no wood. Moving on to the 3rd snowy jar on day 22. This map maker just must like snow and snowmen, sure. The search for the sponge was on. It wasn't in the cork. I then checked the ice, and well, that was pretty easy. Also, the snowman was called George, Melissa, and Bob. Now, I'm sure there's some sort of inside joke that I don't know about, so maybe you can let me know down below. Anyway, moving on to a normal cave jar in this case, and honestly, it was more of the same, just a lot of mobs. I kept going on day 23, grabbing as much ore as I could, but there was a problem. I didn't have any inventory space, so I decided to call it a day for the time being, head back. It's annoying, but sadly, can't be helped. And then on day 25, yes, 25, because honestly, 24, nothing much happened, I returned back to the cave jar. I found myself a broken nether portal, which mending, you say? Huh, don't mind if I do. Also found myself a mineshaft. It had cave spiders, which admittedly was less nice, but after finding myself a new passage and getting bombarded by mobs, I finally found myself the next sponge. Side note, by the way, how did this arrow miss the skeleton? Like I slowed it down like 3 times. How in the world did it miss? On day 26, when I got back, I made myself furnaces. Made them into a little archway. I don't know why, I just thought it was cute. And and I cooked all the things that I had. The mending book that I got, I added to the fortune pickaxe I also had, and then I got onto chopping some wood. I think it's about time I set myself up a level 30 enchanter, but for that, I am going to need some emerald. It only took a couple of days, but by day 20, I got myself 15 bookshelves, and just like that, I got myself a level 30 enchanter set up. It's a shame that I'm nowhere near close on the level side, but hey, at least it's nice to have when I do get 30 levels, I can do it whenever I'm ready. And then I did a little bit more animal breeding. It's not much, but we're making progress. I moved on to the next jar on day 29, the pillager jar. To be 100% honest, nothing great really happened here. The chest was just a little bit meh. I did start to get a little bit overrun, and whilst I was trying to escape, I did accidentally find the sponge, which was pretty cool. And whilst trying to leave, well, it was not very simple, I'll say that much. Just look how much there are here, my goodness. Even when I was able to escape the jar, they managed to follow me out. I basically had to block off that side of the jars and hope they would despawn. But when I moved on day 30, the one thing to be out of was wood. I had basically none of it. I really shouldn't have burned down those trees earlier, to be honest with you. But after getting a little bit of wood, I decided to clear out the pillagers that I could. So I did actually take a little bit of a break from recording between day 29 and day 30. And because of that, all the pillagers actually despawned, which means it was really simple to get in there, break and light up the spawners, which was quite nice. I was starting to generate a new problem though, and that was the jars were so far away from each other, it was taking minutes at a time to get from the starter jar to whichever jar I was going to at that time. I did remember reading in the book though on day 31 that I can actually buy myself some teleporters. For 2 diamonds and a couple of emeralds, I'd be able to teleport around the map. After a couple more days of trading on day 33, I was able to buy myself the teleporters, get the first one placed in my jar, and then I was able to run all the way to the pillager jar and placed it. Sadly for me though, nothing happened. I wasn't really sure why at this point, but the most annoying thing about this is that because I can't teleport back, I'm going to have to run back, which is really silly. I read in the book again that all I need to do was place buttons on top of it and that would work, so we'll try that out. Day 34, and when I did put the button on there, I did actually produce some particles, so it was quite helpful. And then I had to run back to the pillager jar again, but with the button on there, it really was as easy as can be. And then I went back to cobblestone grinding. There was 2 reasons. Firstly, I of course needed cobblestone for some more bridging, and secondly, I still don't have the sponge in the starter jar and I was hoping to find it. Sadly for me, I wasn't able to find it this day. Life is so much easier now that I actually have teleporters on day 35. Don't have to spend half my day just running around. That being said, I was able to move on to the woodland mansion this day. Things took a very quick turn for me though, unfortunately. I was able to kill myself an evoker, got myself a totem, but then I got swarmed by every Vex under the sun. It turns out that there was another evoker behind this wall, though I originally thought that he was upstairs, which nearly cost me my life. Lucky for me though, I was able to notice where he was and I was able to take him out. It did cost me my totem originally, but I do have a second one, so I can't really complain that much. The Vexes were still chasing me though, so I was able to escape using the teleporter. I'm not going to go over there for a while and hopefully they'll despawn. After returning back the next day and checking the loot, I got myself an infinity book, which I'll take. And there was of course this obsidian egg that I spotted when I was up there. After breaking it in, it had the usual diamond block that it normally has, but it also had a sponge, which was quite nice. But that will do for the woodland mansion. Let's instead head over to the giant glyph. Now, if I'm a betting man, which for the record I'm not, the sponge will definitely be at the top of the mountain. As soon as I can get past this farting powdered snow, like my goodness, we will be good to go. But I was right. Also, because I was so far out, I was able to load in new jars. Turns out I didn't see all the jars of the world and we have much more to search. On day 37, I started bridging over to the next deep slate jar, but then I just stopped. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I don't know why I stopped, but I did, and I didn't come back until night 38, so whatever I was doing, I genuinely don't know. That being said, rip this crafting table. I guess I just didn't need it. On day 39, I went into the jar and into the caves. Yeah, I think a mistake has been made. Now listen, when I tell you that this took all day, slowly getting rid of every single nerd that was in here. It genuinely did take so long for me to do this, but I will happily say by the end of the day I had it all cleared out, and this general area lit up as well, so no more mobs should spawn in here. On day 40, I returned back to the jar, grabbing all the diamonds that I could. This place wasn't too easy to navigate, but I did find my way around, until I found this. And this looks interesting, so I'm planning to go there very, very soon. Soon as in the next day, because it was day 41 when I made my way over. Little did I expect an actual giant maze. Well, here we are. I could have easily just broke through the maze, but that would have been kind of boring. It was really exciting to find stuff, like when I found the sponge. It was once I made it to the 3rd floor that I actually found myself a new mob. It was a mob with a flame bow that was doing damage, and yeah, this boy outclassed me. I could not fight him, so unfortunately for me, I had to hide and survive. After regrouping and trying trying again on day 42. I did again nearly die, but thanks to some classic cheesing, I was able to kill this thing. I also got the bow, which not only was flame, but also power and infinity, which was pretty good. I then searched the top of this maze, other than some pretty decent protection for iron armor. I'm gonna be honest with you, there wasn't anything here too special, so at least we can head home clearing this one out. So after dumping my stuff off on day 43, I headed over to the free jars over here, which just looks like mini jungles. I'm gonna be 100% honest, other than finding the free sponges here, there really was nothing else here, so let's move on. And on day 44, after a quick food stop, I got myself some wood and some cobble. Literally just a day of grinding, but yet again in this jar, there still wasn't sponge. And on day 45, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't really do that much. I was pretty much just covering ground, checking out the southern area of this map to make sure I didn't miss any obvious jars, and I can confidently say I didn't see any, so we can move on. And so on day 46, I started moving towards the northern jars. Firstly, to these 3 mini forest jars over here. One of them did have a sponge, but that was about it. And on day 47, I got to the jungle jars, where I got myself some melons. The jungle temple was a little bit different than before, and it definitely had some unique traps, but it was literally nothing that I fell for. To be fair, the chest would have been good if I went to it much earlier, but for right now, this chest sleeve isn't that great. The only thing left to find was the actual sponge, and it did actually take me a minute longer than usual, but I was able to find it at the top of the jungle temple. And then I returned home. I'm grateful that I brought myself some teleporters, and well, I had a plan. And that plan on day 48 was simple. I'm gonna go to the Nether portal. I was expecting it to be a decent bit away, but I am still pretty helpful. And so I bridged, and bridged, and bridged. Boy, did I bridge, until I finally saw it. Let's go. Good news, by the way, all teleporters connect to each other, so I was easily able to get in there and just teleport right back. And back I go on day 49, or at least that was the plan. For whatever reason, I couldn't teleport back to the Nether portal, which means I've got to run back, which just lovely, isn't it? After finally getting there, and I found the sponge relatively quickly, I headed in. Shockingly enough, this Nether is also full of jars. Also got the sponge in here as well. Anyway, let's get on. Starting on day 50, I started moving in between the jars. Firstly to the warped forest, where I started killing myself some endermen. It didn't take me too long to get 12 ender pearls, as they could only spawn here. After that, I pretty much tore the place apart looking for the sponge. There was no sponge to be found here just yet, and so I decided to just quickly move on. Whilst moving on to the next jar, I actually did get the achievement for a terrible fortress, despite the fortress being way over there, so sure, why not? I killed myself some withers, and look how many there are over there. Just yikes. At least I got the sponge in this jar, so that wasn't too bad. And then I decided to jump into lava, because, you know, why not? On day 51, I moved over to the 2 right jars on the other side, and I quickly dealt with both of them, killing the mobs, getting the sponges, usual stuff really, and then I noticed that there was a bastion behind the fortress. I can also see at the bottom of the fortress there's a sponge there. It will be a bit of a pain to get to, but if I'm a little bit sneaky, I should be able to get it relatively easy. It wasn't too bad in the end, but listen, we saw how dangerous it was up there. I'm not going up there just yet. Instead, I decided to go check out the bastion. I started to make my way in, and I don't know when exactly this happened, but at some point it changed to day 52, so I'm just gonna say now is day 52. I made my way in, and well, things went terrible. I tried to break the spawner, and now I am in the lava. I desperately tried to survive, but I was able to do so, or at least I was able to save my totem. And then 30 seconds later, I returned back to the lava, which was just fantastic. Also, the chest in this bastion, yeah, kind of useless. Not even pig step. Like, what's even the point? I also noticed another bottle behind the bastion, which looks like it was just full of stuff, so we'll definitely go and check that out. Again, assuming it's day 53 at this point, I made my way over. It looks like this jar is full of netherite and quartz, which is pretty good until I realized something simple. This map was actually made in 1.18, which means netherite upgrades are just not obtainable, which means there's no point in me searching this jar to actually get myself the netherite. At least I could fix my pickaxe up with the mending, so that was pretty simple to do. But for now, I would say I'm completely done with the nether. Let's head home, and can I just say thank God for teleporters? I know it might be only one way over here, but my God, did that save some time. 54, and with the nether goodness, I was able to buy myself the end portal locator. But to get to the end, I am definitely going to need to get myself some blocks, because I know I'm going to need to do some more jar hopping. I moved on to the major jar on day 55. There honestly wasn't anything too good here. Just like there was no obvious spot to where the sponge could be, so for now I am going to call it quits so I can return home. I have a simple problem. I need to get myself some food. Now, unfortunately for me, the next few days whilst I was sorting out my food, I didn't actually press the record button like a smart person, but here we are on day 61 where I was able to sort out my food situation. I had plenty of bread, cookies, and most importantly, I had plenty of golden carrots. That will sort me for the time being. I began checking the main jar again for the sponge, where I actually finally found it for once. My god, it was hidden away in this granite, which, well, of course I was going to leave it there. I was never going to touch that granite. And then I moved over to the mason jar, where I found not one, but 2 different sponges in 2 different jars, which, you know, these sponges are starting to add up. I then noticed on day 62 that there was actually a 3rd mason jar that I just completely missed. I pretty much suspected that the sponge was going to be in one of the corners on the hills, and, well, that was pretty quickly proven right. And so, after getting home and unwetting the sponge, I now had 26 sponges. There is 51, so I am halfway there. I then did a little bit of counting and counted that I have 6 more jars to go. And that's not including the stronghold jar, so there's still plenty to explore in this world. On day 63, I moved over to the swamp jar. Again, there's not really too much to say here. I went through them, got myself the sponges, but yeah, again, there really wasn't much here. And then on day 64, I moved over to the deep slate jar. Things actually went well at first until every zombie under the surface decided to show up. It's fine, I didn't want the sword or anything. It was only sharpness 4, no biggie. And after killing them and getting poisoned, I decided that maybe it would be a good time to go home and replenish my sword. That might be a good idea. Day 65, and I was finally able to use my level 30 enchanter, and I got smite. I mean, then I guess I'll take it, why not? I will want looting, but I can come back to that again later. I also fixed my bow. I really don't want this bad boy to break either. I returned back to the jar on day 66, where I realized I reached the end of it, where I saw a ship in a bottle. Isn't that cute? I moved to the ocean, where I got Elder Guardian, so that was nice. After about 5 minutes of waiting, I was able to get myself to the Amethyst Geode, which found myself a very free sponge. I'll definitely take that. And then I went back to kill the Guardian. It was a lot of running in there, getting a couple of shots off, and then leaving again, but I was able to kill him in the end, which was quite nice. On day 67, as I was writing some notes up, I got Elder Guardian again, so apparently there's more in there, which is kind of annoying. Turns out there was 2 more in there, so there's usual 3, which I guess I should have suspected, but I was able to deal with them both. It admittedly was a bit of a pain, but it wasn't too hard thanks to the classic door trick. You'd also get the Elder Guardian trim, because, you know, why not? And after grabbing myself some more cobble on day 68, I moved on towards the next jar, where I found myself a new villager. This guy was trading a Mushroom Island jar of locators, so I just gave myself 5 mushrooms, but lucky for me, I do have emeralds, even though they are back at base. Getting back on day 69, and I started making the trades. I also found the sponge relatively quickly, which is quite nice. The same thing happened on Emerald City, at least the jar that's full of emeralds. I very quickly found the sponge there too. I then knocked out the Savannah jars back to back, and just as I was finishing, I noticed this, and this looks fun. You know what looks funner though on day 17? Definitely the ship in the bottle, so I decided to go in there, and I found myself a map. This map looks like it's locating to where the desert temple was, so I will head over there in a second. Also, again, I'm not a betting man, but if I was to bet that the sponge was going to be underneath the dead coral, and yet again, I was right. On day 71, I returned over to the desert area and started digging. Didn't take me any time at all to find myself the chest, and honestly, nothing too great in there. This admittedly was a little bit of a waste of time. I then did the very long run back to the other side, and by the time I got there, it was night. The next 2 days, I ran through this dungeon stronghold thingy, and I fought every single mob that I could. There was a lot of spawners with different kinds of mobs and different kinds of weapons and materials that they had, but after dealing with all of them and getting up the layers, I was able to make it to the top. I was able to find the sponge in there as well, which was pretty good, and I was able to leave without dying, which was quite nice. Day 75, not a lot happened. All I really did was head back home, and then I headed back out, where on day 76, I set off into the void again because I wanted to go to the mushroom jar. I pretty much started the day and got there by night. It only took a couple of minutes of searching, but I was also able to find the sponge here, and that was legitimately the only reason I came here, so now I gotta make the run back. Fun, I know. It was 18 by the time I got back and was moving on. I now had 41 sponges to my name, so I wanted to return to the nether and grab myself some blaze rods. That again was also easy enough. And yet again on day 81, I went bridging, where on day 82, I found myself the stronghold bottle, lit the portal, and went straight in there. This end was custom, and it was kind of cool looking, but admittedly wasn't too much of a hassle to deal with. I was able to kill the ender dragon and move on. I was beginning to go to the outer ends on day 83, but then I remembered that there wouldn't be any structures in this world. This was a similar problem that I had in the recent 100 days, and so I headed straight back home, not wanting to mess around with that again. For now, I'm going to instead go and kill the wither, so I prepped some stuff now to go and do that. I did also make another mistake though. Here we are on day 88, and I do have the 3 wither skulls. I didn't record that period, which I do again apologize for. That being said, it is time for me to kill the wither. The wither fight on day 89 was pretty simple. Thanks to the 2 uber apples I had, all I had to do was eat the one, and I was able to easily deal with that. And just one more job. I need to find the final 10 sponges, which took me the rest of this 100 days video. I went around this world, searched the jars that I had not found sponge in until I got the last one. It was hidden away in one of the deep slate caves underneath this lapis, where I got 51 sponges. Just like that, I was done. I slept on day 99 to get to day 100.